It's the show the establishment warned you about.
And thank you for joining us today. This is Dr. Tommy's show live from Wesley Chapel, Florida, featuring America's free market doctor, myself, and America's free market nurse.
Good morning.
And we are joining you live as always on Wednesday to bring you the latest and greatest in all of the ongoings in concierge medicine and direct primary care, and also free market medicine in general, but also just the latest in all of the important things that you should know about, including the recent unfortunate terrorist attack in New York City, which we'll cover later. But first of all, I want to tell you about the latest and greatest in electronic medical records, and it has nothing to do with what has been foisted upon a lot of different doctors when they think of electronic medical records, and that is Atlas MD. Atlas MD is your one-stop source for all things membership medicine, including direct primary care doctors and concierge medicine, because it includes a electronic medical record. It includes a billing solution for managing memberships. It includes a messaging solution, and it includes so much more. If you're interested in learning about it and interested in having a free trial for 60 whole days, go to askdrtommy.com and click on the special offer for Atlas MD, and then you can sign up and be on your way in about 5 minutes. And today is also the open enrollment date for a lot of people, so we want to talk a little bit about open enrollment and the different things that you should be on the lookout for when you're picking an insurance plan. But first, I wanted to cover what was going on in New York City, because it has hit home for us, because apparently this terrorist murderer who went on a rampage in New York is actually from the Tampa area at some level, and that is Uzbek community, Uzbek national, Uzbekistan, and his name doesn't even really matter what his name is, but it's Safulo Saipov. I'm not sure how to say it, but anyway, he's a permanent resident status, and he was actually from Temple Terrace, which is right down the road from where we are.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And
so that's him right there. I have not seen a picture of him yet.
Yes, this is him. And so anyway, this gentleman, asshole terrorist, ran over some people in New York who were just walking and minding their own business. And so unfortunately for us, we have had another terrorist attack here on our soil, which is increasingly common phenomenon throughout the world. And there's really not a lot that we are doing about it, I think, except for maybe trying to raise awareness. But I don't know. It just
How
seems
long
like
this man had been here? He was here, I understand, on a diversity visa.
Yes,
right,
since 2010. Well, that's I think that's when he came here in 2010. And he was here on a diversity visa, which means there's green cards are given out, which is legal status. I'm not going to get into all the nuances of it, but basically there's a green card lottery that they established. And recently, I looked it up earlier, but there's been several different nuances of when they pick people to come to the United States to be lawful residents who are not citizens, and they get a green card, so to speak. They call them green cards. Well, apparently this person was here on a diversity visa, which meant that is actually Chuck Schumer, who was one of the ones who spearheaded this, was picking people who come to this country who are underrepresented from their native home. So if it's, say, people are from Uzbekistan, there hasn't been a lot of them immigrating to the United States, so we're going to pick preferentially from that group, is what I understand it to be. And for some reason, they determined that was necessary, and that's how he got here. Now, that doesn't mean that the people who came here on that diversity visa are any more likely to kill people than people who aren't, because as we know, there's people who live here that are. It's just an interesting side note, I guess.
Yeah, it is. And so he's been here since 2010. So he's been here 7 years, so since the age of 22. What is he doing? How does he have a home in Temple Terrace and have a home in New York? What does he do for a living?
I don't know, but apparently he is not unfamiliar to the FBI, because as I was reading on Drudge Report earlier today, he had actually been interviewed by the FBI previously, and was I guess he was. This is from Drudge Report, and I'm just going to go ahead and read this. This is ABC News. They took it down.
Wow.
Let's see. No, here it is. ABC News, feds interviewed suspect New York City truck hijack attacker in 2015 about possible terrorist ties. And this is from Aaron Katursky, Josh Margolin. And this is some ad.
That's disorganized.
Shush. Anyway, this is from Aaron Katursky et al. And this is from ABC. And it says the suspected New York City attacker, there's another ad, Sayfullo Saipov was interviewed in 2015 by federal agents in the Department of Homeland Security Investigations Unit about possible ties to suspected terrorists, but the agents did not have enough evidence to open a case on him, law enforcement officials tell ABC News. Saipov's name and address was listed as a, quote, point of contact for two men whose names were entered into the Counterterrorism and Criminal Exploitation Unit's list after they came to the United States from, quote, threat countries, one federal officials told ABC News.
Okay, so he was suspected to be part of another terrorist group, correct, in 2015?
No, they said he was a point of contact.
He was a point of contact with this with the terrorist group?
With two different men whose names were entered into the Counterterrorism and Criminal Exploitation Unit's list.
Okay, so
after they came from the United States from, quote, threat countries, one federal official told ABC News.
Okay, so 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But we just said, okay, just stay here.
Well, one of the two men was vanished and is being actively sought by federal agents as a suspected terrorist. It's interesting, though. You talk about what is the reason that people come into the United States to commit terrorism or commit terrorism anywhere? Mm-hmm. And I think when you start talking about all these different terrorist activities, you got to think, what is the root cause of all of it? And that's the same for anything. And what is the root cause of, for instance, one of the great things that we talk about is poverty. And what is the root cause of poverty? Well, very oftentimes we never, as a country or especially as a federal government, just determine what is the root cause and to try to find out what caused that. So we just start doing things. So I don't know. I don't know why they talk to them. I don't know I don't know why they have a diversity program. I don't know why they have a visa program. Who knows? That a lot of this stuff is what happens when the federal government starts doing things. They just get involved, and before you know it, there's this big morass, and you can never even figure it out. It's like trying to figure out how to untangle a electrical cord that has just been tied in knots. You don't even know where to start. But one thing's for sure is that the terrorism effort, as we know it in our United States, is basically let's unite, whatever that means. Yeah. Let's be strong, and we're not going to take it, and we're going to go about our lives. So that's the mantra that we do. Meanwhile, people just keep.
See, in my opinion, 2 years ago, he should have been sent back.
Yeah, I mean, what's the point of him having here? Yeah, if you're here on a green card, and you are tied up with some people who are unsavory, why? Yeah, why? What is the so compelling reason that you're here?
Right. What? So 2
as
years
a guest
ago,
in our country. Let's put it this way. Like go to your point.
Well, it was 2 years ago. Why wasn't he sent back? What was he doing that was so wonderful? What was he doing with the United States or for the United States? What was he giving to, make...
What was he contributing?
Yeah, what was he doing? What was he contributing to the United States that we needed him back here? We needed him here so badly.
Saipov, 29, came to the United States from Uzbekistan through a diversity visa program lottery in 2010, making him a legal permanent resident of the United States upon arrival. He has lived in Ohio, Florida, and most recently Patterson, New Jersey, where federal agents interviewed Saipov in 2015. Now, yeah, so what is it? This guy's lived in Ohio, Florida, and Patterson, New Jersey. What is he, like a locum tenens doctor that just travels around from state to state working? What is it? What is Saipov? I don't know. The media doesn't do a very good job of fighting things like this because this doesn't really interest them. Now, it would be more interesting to them if Saipov killed those people with a gun. They would be very interested in it then. So now probably nothing will ever come of this. Just like the Las Vegas thing. No, who knows what happened.
Right. So this man is now being treated for a gunshot wound to the abdomen.
He was shot.
That we'll probably end up paying for. I doubt he's
absolutely. Well, maybe he signed up already.
What, for insurance?
With the ACA.
Well,
the exchange. Maybe he got through the exchange already, and maybe we're already subsidizing him.
That's true.
Hopefully. Don't want him to wind up with a big bill from the hospital where they fixed him. Anyway, stay tuned for that. So November 1st is where a lot of people are eligible now for open enrollment. So now in the United States, you can only buy insurance during certain times of year. Very small window.
Yeah.
Health insurance. If I buy a car tomorrow, I can go get insurance from anybody I want. I can get it. I can quit my insurance. I don't have to have any special subsidies. I don't have any. Don't have to tell them anything about my household.
Mm-hmm. But now, so it starts today, November 1st. And
November 1st
what's the window? Do you know?
Till December 15th.
Okay. So you have 6 weeks to decide.
Actually, this is from when I don't know if this is when the ACA has maybe been open for a long time. Who knows?
Wait, no, I tried. Remember, I tried to get when we went online at the ACA. It said that we could not do that, but it was not open enrollment for the ACA.
Maybe if Donald Trump hadn't ixnayed the publicity campaign, there was like a $90 million, some millions of dollars of advertisement for the ACA for the market. Maybe if that had not been, you and I wouldn't have to do a Google search right now to find out. Mm-hmm. But instead, now I have to lift my fingers and do a Google search. So let's see when the ACA open enrollment is. Let's see.
I had a patient tell me this morning, do you know what he pays for insurance monthly?
November 1st. If only there was a commercial that had told me. If I'd learned about that through some government program, I wouldn't have had to do that Google search just now. But anyway, yes. What did he say?
Oh, a patient told me this morning that he pays $700 a month.
For insurance? The new one?
Not the one he's had.
No, the new patient, the new member.
No.
Oh, somebody else.
Yeah.
$700. And what does he get for that?
He doesn't get anything. He doesn't even use it.
Didn't he get a thank you note?
Not even a thank you note.
Thank you for your contribution.
Not a card in the mail, not a box of chocolates, nothing.
He gets a physical.
Well, he doesn't get it. He doesn't use it because he's a patient of ours.
He doesn't have to pay for a mammogram.
That's true.
And he's a man. Never mind.
And he can get birth control?
He can get free dental care if he's a child. Oh, he's not a child. Mm-mm. What else can he get?
$700
prescription Medicaid. Is he on prescriptions?
Yes.
See? He gets prescription. So it's not a big deal.
He is on medication.
What does he have to complain about? He's getting prescription cover. Now, a lot of the prescriptions he's on can be free at Publix, but...
Or $4 at Walmart.
Yeah, but anyway, November 1st is open enrollment. So one of the things that we like to do here, besides be extremely sarcastic about the establishment, is to talk about some of the things that are important to regular Americans out there who don't live in New York City or Washington, D.C. or Los Angeles, where all the very smart people live and dictate our lives to us. But regular Americans who are out there trying to figure out, and insurance is extremely confusing. So
it is.
One of the first things to talk about is what is a network. So there's different types of networks. If you join an HMO, that's typically the most restrictive type of network. So tell them what that means.
Yes, and with an HMO, you are going to see your primary care physician, and
who is assigned to you, right?
Who is assigned to you. So you pick someone, or they're going to assign someone to you if you don't pick anyone.
Okay.
So let's just say you are your primary care. So they pick Dr. Tommy McElroy, and then you are going to they're going to see you, and then in order for you to refer out, let's say something's wrong with this patient and it's beyond your level of expertise, so then we have to call the insurance company and get what's called a referral. Right. And hopefully the insurance company approves it. Right. And if they do, they're going to approve it for so many visits, and this referral is going to be there's going to be usually an expiration date. So it might be effective November 1st through December 1st, or maybe a little bit longer. And then they can finally go see a specialist. And that's if you agree to it also. So the primary doctor has to agree to authorize to start the process of the referral. But
HMOs tend to be the least expensive.
They are the least expensive, but you are limited.
Okay. But so HMO is good for who though? Who could it be good for potentially?
Well, I personally think that an HMO is okay. So an HMO is going to be good for probably a healthy individual that doesn't need to see a lot of specialists, or a pregnant person that's going to be seeing their OBGYN is going to be their primary doctor for 9 months. Okay. And maybe a child. Okay. That's about it.
All right. The next one's PPO.
PPO is it's usually you have a broader range of physicians you can see. You're not going to be assigned to anyone.
Sometimes you don't have to have authorization to see a specialist.
Most of the time you do not. Now you will have a higher copay usually to see a specialist. Let's say your normal copay is $35. When you go see a specialist, it might be double that. Most likely it's going to be double that.
So who's a specialist?
Well, anybody with primary care.
Primary cares aren't specialists. They're stupid.
I know.
That's what I love about HMOs and PPOs is when you look on your card, it says PCP. It doesn't say family doctor, internist, or it says PCP or primary, some abstract term.
Anybody, yeah.
It's like some amount. And then if you want to see a real doctor who knows something more than just writing a couple prescriptions and being an idiot to refer you to somebody, then you have to pay double that amount. That's one of the beautiful things. You know what's funny is when I used to take insurance, when I was working for a multi-specialty group, I was a subspecialist too on certain insurance because so I'm a family doctor and a sports medicine doctor, right? So I have dual certification. So anyway, some of these insurances I was on as a specialist, a sports medicine doctor. So people would actually send patients to me to be a sports medicine doctor. So do you know that when I was seen as a sports medicine doctor, they had to pay me more?
I remember that at USF.
So let's take a scenario. Let's say you have shoulder pain. Okay, you have shoulder pain. Your doctor's like, look, I don't know anything about shoulder pain. You've reached the end of your 5-minute visit. You're asking me about shoulder pain? Referred. So you get referred out. And then you wind up in my former office when I was with the Department of Orthopedics. And they said, well, you're a specialist now. You're going to have to pay a specialist fee. It's not $20, it's $40. So he's like, or she is like $40, whatever. And they come see me. I'm a specialist. They come see me and I say, okay, you have a shoulder problem. I'm going to do this, that, or the other. I'm going to inject your shoulder. So I inject their shoulder. Out the door they go. All right, same patient. Let's say they come to me as a family doctor, because I was also a family doctor, and they say, look, I have shoulder pain. I'm like, okay, cool, because I do sports medicine. So I'm talking to them, and I say, looks like you have a shoulder problem. I'm gonna inject your shoulder. So I inject their shoulder. Then out the door, they're like, you know what? I also have diabetes and hypertension. Do you do that too? I'm like, yeah, actually I do. And so I look at their labs, whatever, and I put them on 2 different medicines. So I do shoulder pain, diabetes, and hypertension. And guess what they paid? They paid less. Because I was then a stupid family doctor and not a specialist.
I remember that.
All you doctors
I
out
remember
there.
Anna Maria at the front desk.
All you sports and family medicine doctors.
And coming back and saying, oh, this person needs a referral because they're going to see you for this shoulder injury or knee injury or whatever. They're going to see you for sports-related injury. Yeah. And so anyway, yes, it was the process was a little bit more difficult.
So that's HMO and PPO is the basic 2 differences. That's it, really, for insurance, I think. I mean, there's something called EPO.
EPO. I'm not sure what
we're
that
not
is.
Insurance specialists, so don't go like taking our stuff to the saying, oh, Dr. Tommy and Tracy misled me. If you need an insurance question, ask an insurance agent. We're just trying to give you general information.
Right. I'm not sure. I don't know what an EPO is.
EPO is like a brand of PPO.
Okay.
I think.
All right.
It's like a more restrictive PPO. Because sometimes we have PPO members here who have to have something like, usually they'll pay for something unless it's part of their network. Right.
Well, of course, we're always going to be out of network. So with a PPO, you can, you've got, with your deductible, you have in-network or out-of-network. So if you see an in-network physician, your deductible can be less, your copay's less. They're going to pay, your insurance company's going to pay more. You can go to out-of-network as well, which is what we are considered out-of-network.
And then sometimes if you have that restrictive PPO, they won't pay for anything that's out-of-network. It's like sometimes they'll pay for like 60% out-of-network, 80% in-network, or 100% in-network. But some of these PPOs are so restricted, they say, look, you have PPO, and you will pay this, but if you go out of network, we don't pay anything. I think that may be the EPA, but I'm not sure.
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure, but we do have a few patients here that have no out-of-network benefits.
Yeah. And then tell them, okay, so now we brought up deductibles. What's a deductible?
A deductible is the amount of money that you are required to pay out of pocket before your insurance will pay. So let's just say many of our patients have high deductible plans.
Okay.
Most of them have anywhere between $6,000 and $10,000 that they are going to be required to pay out of pocket, and then their insurance will start paying. And it's generally about 80-20 that's pretty they're pretty normal. So your insurance company is going to start paying 80%. And you're responsible for the 20% after the deductible has been met.
And then there's some things that you don't have to meet your deductible for. And those are the essential benefits, I think. I don't know if that's
preventative.
Some things, So an annual physical, you can get that for quote unquote free after paying $700 a month or whatever you pay per month.
Well,
but then let's say you do an annual physical and they say, look, you have shoulder pain. you need to come back for another visit because we can't
They
really
cannot
discuss that now because
Right.
you have. So come back tomorrow. So you come back tomorrow, then you may have to pay towards that deductible.
That's right. Yes, you cannot do 2 different codes like that in one day. It has to be on 2 different visits.
Yeah, and but then there's some things you have to meet deductible for, some things you don't.
That's
So
right.
some health maintenance things you don't have to. And that was just someone who commented on our Olympia video,
Oh, okay.
which, by the way, has reached almost 1,000 views. So thank you everyone who's
yes,
watched.
thank you. That's awesome.
But anyway,
It was a fun video. Well, and the thing is, I'm going to use your insurance, for example. You had a physical this year by Dr. Salud, and so it was billed under a physical, and your insurance would not pay for your
like
labs.
three things.
Right. So
But
anyway,
there's certain things that won't pay for. You have to be very
right. Yes.
savvy and look at your like some patients come in here, they have insurance, and we'll say, look, do you want us to bill your insurance, or do you want to pay us what the members pay for labs? So members pay here like, what is it, like $40 or $45 for the 5 labs that we do?
It's less than $40.
Okay,
$39 and some change.
So we'll
for
do
a
a
full
blood count, a
panel.
metabolic panel, a urinalysis, a thyroid stimulating hormone, and a urinalysis. And then we'll just say, do you want us to bill insurance, or do you want to pay us just the member price, which is basically what the lab charges us. We charge the members. And a lot of times they'll just say, I'll just pay you, because they may come back where, they covered the blood count, sure, but they didn't cover your urinalysis. And then what you don't know is that the urinalysis that your insurance company will pay to the lab is a lot more than you would pay with us.
Right. A $39 physical panel, like you said, 5. This
One
includes
lab
5
may cost
labs.
that much. Or more.
$39. If a patient were to be billed that through their insurance company, it would be over $1,000.
Well, I'll just read this one here. So here it is. This is the one that was billed to my insurance but didn't pay. So urinalysis, complete urinalysis. How much does it cost us as a member? Our members?
I think it's like $6.
$47.59. Okay, CBC. That's what the
That's $4.
That's what the insurance pays.
Okay, $4.
Or that's what the lab charges. I'm sorry. CBC is $4. Okay, lab billed $42. Comprehensive metabolic panel.
That is about $10.
$65.
Oh wait, no. How much is that? $65? Oh, a CMP is actually I think $6.
Okay.
$7.
Thyroid stimulating hormone. Our
It's
members
11
pay.
Ours is about $11.
Quest, or not Quest, the lab bills $130. And then we get to and that's the other thing. So then you have to look at your EOB and see what the EOB did. That's just,
Well, and I tell the patients, okay,
so
so
sometimes the EOB will be, so the insurance may not want to pay $130 for the $10 lab. Because they may say, that's crazy. We're not going to pay $130 for a $10 lab. You think we're crazy? So you know what they'll pay?
Well, they're going to
$125.
Right. Now you will get you will get an adjustment most of the time if you use an in-network physician. Your insurance carrier is going to give you an adjustment, so that is going to bring the bill down.
But it doesn't give you an adjustment; it gives the insurance company an adjustment.
Well, yes, you're right.
But if you didn't say bill the insurance, you can't go back. Like if you come to us and say, no, I want to just pay them now. They won't let you.
No,
the lab is going to charge you however much they're going to charge you. They're not going to go back and say, okay, now we'll build Echelon Health.
I tell the patients, so $39 for a full physical panel. Once I send your blood work out, and if you want me to bill your insurance, it's out of my hands after that. I can't do anything about the fact that when they send you $1,000 bill because you have a $6,000 deductible, it's out of my hands. So, that decision has to be made at the time that I draw the blood. And most always the patient, I shouldn't say always, but most of the patients here, they just say $39, that's it, just bill me. I
was watching this YouTube video, the AAPS, Association of American Physicians and Surgeons Conference, and there was a lady speaking named Beverly Gossage, who is a healthcare expert. She's a policy expert, but she's also an insurance agent. And so they're talking about the ACA, and she was basically talking about the way things were before the ACA. Mm-hmm. So, all these things that we're talking about now are due to the ACA. Not all the charges, but I'm talking about the open enrollment and everything. And, a lot of the people will say, well, the ACA has done a lot of good because people who would otherwise not have medical care can get it now. or insurance. So there's a whole dichotomy of, are you talking about medical care, which is what we do, or are you talking about insurance, which the company sells you? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're talking about, let's just talk about insurance for now, because everyone can get medical care. Mm-hmm. If you go to a direct primary care office, you can get medical care. If you could go to any doctor's office, you can get medical care. Now, it may not be very easy to get because the market is so saturated with with insurance providers. But anyway, the point is medical care and insurance are not the same thing. But let's talk about insurance. She was saying that before the ACA, the HIPAA law, you know what the HIPAA law is? Mm-hmm. The HIPAA law had in it a language that said that each state must have an insurance plan that people can get. And so a lot of these states, then after that law was passed, created what's called high-risk pools. Okay. So have you ever heard of a high-risk pool?
No.
So a high-risk pool is for someone who's uninsurable. So here we are in Florida. We have property insurance, right? Mm-hmm. So we have property insurance.
Yes, I just got my bill today.
Yes. And if you can't get insurance, then they have a high-risk pool, which is called Citizens. Okay. So Citizens is basically the high-risk, and you pay more for property insurance.
Okay. Yes.
So let's say you do the same thing for a state. Let's say you have a high-risk pool. Well, before the ACA, when people were, quote unquote, couldn't get insurance because of pre-existing condition, all that, there were such things as high-risk pools. And in her particular state, and I can't remember what state it was, she said that the high-risk pool there, that you can go get insurance. You would have to go to the high-risk pool and get insurance. So let's say she gave the example of a patient who called her and said, look, I found out that I have this thing that I have to have operated on. Mm-hmm. I don't have insurance. I'm 26 years old. I didn't think I needed to have insurance. I didn't even get a high deductible catastrophic plan. I just went without. And so I now need surgery. Mm-hmm. And she said, I'm sorry to see that, because right now, according to the ACA rules, you can't get insurance now. You have to wait until open enrollment. Before that, though, guess what would have happened?
They would have signed up for insurance.
Yes, they would have, because of the high risk pool. Mm-hmm. But guess how much he would have had to pay for that?
I'm sure it's how much? A lot.
In the market where she was at, mm-hmm. the high risk pool premiums were 150% of the normal premium.
Oh wow! Okay.
But that's not 150% though. Mm-hmm. That's not that bad. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so we had to say, well, that's not right, that he should have to pay more, because right now what we have in insurance is everyone pays the same, no matter what. No matter if you've had your insurance your whole life, no matter if you have no pre-existing conditions, if you're completely healthy, everyone pays the same because that's what's fair. So what happened for him was, before the ACA, he would have been able to buy an insurance plan, then pay more because he didn't have insurance, and then seen a doctor and had a surgery or whatever. Mm-hmm. But instead, he had to wait 6 weeks at that point. Well, good thing it wasn't January, but he had to wait 6 weeks or 6 months, however long it was, to then have coverage. Mm-hmm. But so he had to pay 150% of the premium. That was in the high risk pool. Now, what do we have now?
Well, I was just going to say, a friend of mine, her sister needed surgery, gallbladder surgery. Do you remember the pictures I showed you? She didn't have it laparoscopically done. Yes. Now she was able to get insurance. So well, that's the other thing. She had to go through she had to ask them all the different questions. Have you recently moved? Have you recently got married? Have you recently been divorced? All these exceptions that allow you to go outside of the open enrollment window. Okay. So here we have the ACA, which was purported to do all these wonderful things, and especially for people with pre-existing conditions, that ended up making this gentleman wait longer. And then you say, well, that's not fair that you have to pay 150% because it's just not fair. It's not his fault. Well, let's say you agree with that. Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't agree with it, but let's say you agree with it, because I think everyone should have insurance, catastrophic insurance. It's not allowed now. You can't buy catastrophic insurance in the United States legally. I mean, you can buy it, but you won't get fined because it's not essential benefits. ACA insurance that is high deductible is not catastrophic. It covers essential benefits. You should be able to buy a plan that just covers catastrophic problems. Right. If you end up in the hospital. Right. Like you do with every other insurance that you have. Mm-hmm. Anyway, if he could have bought that, he should have had that before, so that when he got into that point where he needed to be hospitalized, then he would be able to absorb that cost. Right, but he didn't do that because... But he would have had to be punished, quote unquote, by paying 150%. So what did we do instead? Now we have the ACA. Now he wouldn't have to pay 150%. Depending on his income, he might not have to pay anything, because he may be eligible for a subsidy from the government, which means that the government will take money from one citizen and do some things with it and then give it to somebody else to whom it doesn't belong. And
Everybody else's premium went up, not 150%, many hundreds of percents. This past enrollment, they said some of the plans are going up 40% is common. So what we did was we took a problem which was very isolated, and it was from a few states or from a few people disproportionately did not have this problem. So we said, look, we have this problem with these few people. Let's pass the ACA, and we're going to solve all these problems. And it made all of them worse. And that's the big myth. All that's to say, that's the big myth of the ACA. Yeah,
let's talk about, now we had a viewer talk to you about the penalty. So he felt that, I know you talked to him, I didn't, but he felt that the penalty was, he thinks people need to be penalized when they don't have insurance.
Right. Yes, because his point is people should have insurance. Because when they go to the hospital, they're going to run up the bill, which is true.
And I agree. I think, yeah, it'd be wonderful. We all had insurance, but not everyone can afford it. I mean, just like the patient that told me this morning, his insurance, he pays $700 a month for his insurance. And he's just one of many patients that tell me they spend $500 a month in insurance.
So let's get back to the problem. So the problem is one thing. So the problem is, let's take this one for instance. The problem is, people present to the hospital with no money, no chance of paying, and they run up their bill. Okay. So the answer to that is what? What is the problem? First of all, what is the problem? Why did those people present to the hospital without money to pay their bill?
Well, they don't have the money. They can't afford to to pay that monthly premium.
Okay, but let's talk about,
or they just choose not to have it.
Let's not talk about ACA. Let's just say, yeah, the reasons they could possibly not have it. They couldn't afford it for whatever reason. Okay. They were irresponsible, meaning that they didn't choose not to get it because they said, look, I'm not going to get sick. I'm young and healthy. Nothing's going to happen to me. And if I do get a problem, then I'm going to go to the hospital and I'm not going to have to worry about it anyway. They'll bill me. I'll go to collections. Who cares? So those are two reasons. Third reason is whatever. So let's take those two reasons. So what is the solution to that? So let's say you have people who are irresponsible. Well, that's why they call it the shared responsibility payment, is what your mandate is called. The mandate to buy insurance is called the shared responsibility payment. So presumably, that is to make people buy insurance. Well, why would you make people buy insurance? Why is anyone allowed to go to a hospital and then have no intention of ever paying? Right. Can you go to a restaurant and have no intention of ever paying? We say, well, there is an emergency. It's an emergency situation. All right, let's say there is an emergency situation and someone happened. Do they ever bill those people? Do they ever try to get their money back? And how many people does that affect? How much of that is actually going on in the system? And if so, let's say that it was so rampant in one system that this was going on. Guess who should fix that? If it comes down to the government.
Who?
That state. Why does it have to be expanded to the whole federal government? Let's say you have a problem in California, or you say you have a problem in Texas, where people are just not paying their bills. Why are you going to make your problem every other state's problem? Maybe because the real problem is just an excuse to create this system that is unwieldy and very expensive to benefit very few for what is perceived to be a problem of enormous proportions when it really isn't.
Now, also, okay, think about this too. When you go to the hospital and you don't have insurance and you're going to pay cash. So they are going to bill you, let's just say $10,000. And then you're like, oh, by the way, I don't have insurance. And they're like, okay, we'll give you the cash price. Right. All of a sudden it's $2,500.
Right. And then if you look at that YouTube video, the Beverly Gossage, she talks about that. Not that particular, but she said when she was a young person, they had 6 children in their family, and they went to the hospital very infrequently. Hospitals were used very infrequently. And when they did, the people just paid the hospitals. And so the hospital prices were much less expensive back then. You may say, well, that's technology. MRIs cost a lot of money, this, that, and the other. That's besides the point. The point is there is no, like you said, people don't bear the brunt of the cost of the hospital. They do not pay for it largely. They have insurance to pay for it. Or they don't pay for it at all. Someone else pays for it. Right. They may even have insurance that pays for it that they don't pay for because they have a subsidy. So you've removed the most important person out of the price equation. That's the consumer. Or, I'm sorry, not the consumer, the payer. You've removed the payer from the price equation of healthcare transactions largely, because the payer is not the consumer. The payer is an insurance company, which is paying you for claims with someone else's money. Right. The most ineffective way to spend money is to spend someone else's money on somebody else. Mm-hmm. That's the least effective way to spend money. According to Milton Friedman, there's 4 ways to spend money. You spend money on yourself, you get the best deal. You spend your own money on somebody else, you usually have the cheapest price. You spend someone else's money on somebody else, and that's the worst way, and that's the way the government spends it. Mm-hmm. Or you can spend someone else's money on yourself, like when you go to your company gives you an allowance, you're going to spend every cent.
Yes.
And 1 little cent more than of your own money.
Yeah. We need to see a breakdown. Like, I'm going to go back to my HOA, because I think it's an example of just how the government works, So the HOA, I just received my budget for 2018. Mm-hmm. And the fees on there, coupon books, $750. Mm-hmm. Administration fees, $8,000. Mm-hmm. Just, if they were paying that out of their pocket, come on, you don't really
But you're paying with someone else's money.
That's right. So when you're spending someone else's money, you just throw it away, spend it frivolously,
Back to our point too, I just thought of it. The part about what would poor people do if in their city or town or whatever, they had to go to a hospital and they couldn't afford it. There's once upon a time things called charity hospitals. Mm-hmm. Now you hear that name and you think, well, it was named after a hospital. No, there was actually hospitals that were set up to be charity hospitals. And there were...
Well, the hospitals are all non-for-profit, right?
Well, non-profit, yeah, right. They don't ever make any money.
They never make a dime. I think that's considered charity, right?
Right. And then, but anyway, back to there's charity hospitals. They don't have those anymore.
No.
So all this is to say, what is the root problem?
Now, there are facilities, there are clinics that... you can go see, primary doctors. They have some specialties, and you do. It is basically charity, or you pay a very small amount based on your income. Mm-hmm. Premier is one of those hospitals, and there's Catholic charities. So there are some, but not hospitals that I know of, just clinics.
Right. Yeah, because it's big business to be in the business of taking Medicaid. Mm-hmm. Medicaid is what used to be what you would consider charity. But it's not. Medicaid's big business, just like food stamps is big business. Mm-hmm. We talked about it, or I wrote about it in an article. I wrote about the, what is it called? So I asked Dr. Tommy Blogg. It's about, I think we talked about it last time, about where the money goes for poverty spending. You made Uncle Sam and his buddies rich. And it says the top 4 richest counties in the United States are in the communities surrounding Washington, D.C. To round out the top 10, there are a few places in California and Colorado and 1 more in D.C. It says since declaring a war on poverty in 1964, the United States has spent $22 trillion on government programs to end poverty. The result? Today, 14.5% of Americans are considered poor, essentially the same numbers in 1964 when LBJ's war began. But few people have been lifted out of poverty by these programs. All the spending has not been for naught. But while few people have not been, all the spending has not been for naught. In fact, one of the clearest beneficiaries of government welfare programs are businesses. Approximately 18% of all food stamp spending in 2013 went to Walmart alone. That's billions of dollars taken from one American and given to another American to whom it did not belong, and then given to Walmart. Board members and executives of large businesses like Walmart and Berkshire Hathaway are often tout the virtues of higher taxes and social welfare spending. This is, of course, shocking. Mm-hmm. So, Bex, you look at the Medicaid. So all the poor people who are running around getting Medicaid would better be taken care of more cost effectively in a charity system. Mm-hmm. But that would cut out somebody.
So Madison works with someone. I'm not going to state, where she works or anything, but Madison works with this 30-year-old female, no children. She lives with, another couple, and Madison and her having this conversation at work. She is on Amazon Pantry, I believe is what it's called now. And Madison's looking through and she sees some type of chips. And this 30-year-old female who, she has a job, she has a car, she's carrying a Michael Kors purse, asks my daughter, "Oh, do they take EBT?"
And what did Madison say?
Madison said she was just shocked. And then she said, "I don't know." And then she said she was thinking to herself, "You mean I should just give you the $80 from my pocket?"
Because Madison works.
Madison works, and she's understanding. She's learning how, taxes, how taxes work. And what EBT is. She's just learning about that. And she, of course, she was like, why would this girl be on EBT? She's a 30-year-old female with no children. She's single. She works the same job.
Madison clearly hates poor people.
No, Madison does not hate poor people. This person is not poor. Now, some might think she's poor, but she's carrying a Michael Kors purse. She has a car. She has a roof over her head.
Michael Kors likes the fact that she doesn't have to spend her money on...
Yes, so she can buy more Michael Kors purses.
Well, we had a new member join today, and we were talking about, health insurance and all that. And he was saying, a lot of the things you say makes perfect sense. And a lot of things we say is common sense. If you talked about it to the just random individual on the street. But
we think it is, yes.
But the way it's construed is there always is a front man for any of these things that are designed to take your money and transfer it to somebody else. There's always a front man. And it's always someone who is someone who you feel sorry for. So let's talk about... spending, any type of spending. Let's talk about public school spending. If they ever talk about changing public school spending, so public schools, I don't like to call them public schools, I call them government schools. Government schools are schools that are run by the government. The local government runs the schools, right? Funded by the government, run by the government. Now, if you ever talk about taking some of that money out and giving it to students to go to quote unquote private schools, well, then you're going to hear a hymn and a big uproar about it. Why is that?
Well,
because you're stealing money.
Yes, they want that funding
from the government schools and giving it to private schools. Mm-hmm. Well, where does that money come from? Do you or I not pay taxes?
That's right, we do.
And so why is it that we must choose to send our children with our tax money to a school that is run by the government? Now,
that's
we can
something
choose
Milton
to do
Friedman
that.
said yesterday. Do you remember that he feels that our tax dollars, we should be able to allocate to whatever school we choose? Now, right now, you can have your child go to a private school, but they need to have an individual education plan, an IEP. So a diagnosis of some sort, ADD, maybe autistic, anyway, a diagnosis of some sort. And then your child can go to a private school. But my children, now I can apply for charter school, of course, that takes a little bit of a process, but it's worth it. I think it's worth it. But if I wanted my daughter to go to another, private school, there's no way I could have her, I'd have to pay $20,000.
But, that's the point is though, that if you were to say that that's wrong, that you should be able to use that money, you would, the person who they'd say you're trying to hurt now is the child, because you're taking money from them and giving it to somebody else that doesn't deserve it or need it or whatever. And so if you look at it, there's always a front man, and you have to do your own due diligence to figure out, is it true? So back to our whole point, what is the problem? Why did this terrorist run over people? Well, I don't think we're ever going to look into it as the government. I don't think the government's ever going to look into it. And I'll tell you the reason. The reason is because we live in a sick culture, sick society, evil people. That's the basic reason. But what we'll do instead as the government is we'll say, well, maybe we need to tweak this law. Or maybe we need to, ban this or ban that. So I don't know if they've banned Home Depot trucks yet, but then I assume that's the next step.
Is that what he was driving?
Rental. Yeah, he rented a Home Depot truck. Yes. So I imagine they're going to work on banning Home Depot trucks now as the cure for it, just like they do for shootings, is banning the guns or restricting freedom somehow. Maybe we need to have more background checks on people who rent vans or trucks. That's the thing, is that's the way people think who are in charge. They think, what is the thing that is the least likely to do effect? And let's implement that. Let's implement that on a wide scale basis. So people who are poor can't see the doctor. Let's make everyone buy this expensive healthcare, and let's have the government design it. The schools are failing. The government schools are failing. Let's spend more money on the government schools and then not allow any money to escape it. Now, let's not look at the reason why the government schools are failing. And what is the reason the government schools are failing? Is it because the teachers are bad?
No, I mean, there are some bad teachers, of course. There's some people the teachers that should have never became teachers. Right. But in my opinion, I think that the home life is the huge part of the reason. These children, they stay up late playing video games. Come from broken homes. Maybe a single mom's trying to do the best she can do, and it's she's working two jobs.
So here, what we do is we hang these teachers out to dry, just like they're trying to do with doctors now. Patients are sick, doctor's fault. your quality measures are down. Exact thing they did with teachers. Students aren't doing well. F school. Teachers are to blame.
Right. They fired almost the entire staff of a school in Dade City. All the teachers, they were fired, and they brought in new teachers. But the majority of the population at this school, a lot of the children, could not speak English.
Right. And so if you look at that, so what is the home life like? What is the opportunity for these children to succeed? So you keep unpeeling and unpeeling. If you're really interested, and if you're not interested in demagoguery, and if you're not interested in just saying something to get elected real quick, you'll peel back the layers. And if you're really smart, you can figure out what the problem is.
Yes.
And that's what happens in the market. Why does the market work? The market doesn't work because there's lots of people commanding and who have thought this out on some federal bureaucracy, and they know the exact reason why, how much the price of an iPhone should be. That works because the market has determined what the price of the iPhone should be, and if it doesn't work out, they're going to get punished because they're going to go out of business. But in medicine, when the government gets involved with education, we never look at what the root cause of the problem is. So what is the root cause of people not being able to pay for going to the hospital? What is the root cause of children not succeeding in school? A lot of times, if you look back at it, you know what the root cause is?
What?
The government. If you look at a lot of these causes of failure, a lot of the causes, if you look back on it, is because the government subsidizes it. The government encourages it in some way, not necessarily, but the intent of their program and the outcome of their program are discordant. And that the outcome is that it ensures continual poverty. Back to the point. In 1964, the United States has spent $22 trillion on government programs to end poverty. The result, 14.5% of Americans are considered poor. Essentially the same number as in 1964. So what do we do as a government? For good reasons. We implement programs to make sure everyone has health care. Make sure the schools are good. Make sure people aren't starving. And what do? We ensure more of that.
Yes, create more programs.
Now, that took a lot of thinking, though. So you won't find that on most of your local politicians or any of your local news channels. You won't not find that, but you'll find it here on the Dr. Tommy Show. For next week, we're going to cover some of the more benefits of concierge medicine because we went a little long this week. But I wanted to show this little video I made. This is for all those doctors out there who are listening who want to try something different. This is a video I made just for you.
Metrics, macro, satisfaction, process.
Core, experts, provider, meaningful use.
And for those of you listening, you weren't able to see it. That was basically a droning of these words, and it featured a man, and then it transformed into a computer, and then it shows you this gentleman walking into the distance and says, when you've had enough of the silliness, go to AskDrTommy.com, click on physician. So if you're a physician out there, you want to escape the silliness of the current system of acronyms and qualified plans or whatever, what all the mumbo jumbo is, and you just want to take care of patients like we do here, go to AskDrTommy.com, click on physicians. And also, if you want to be a patient here or you want to find out more about what we do, taking care of patients without all the hassle of all of the stuff that you usually, like one of our new members called it the cattle call. Or no, he called it the cattle something to do with cattle.
Today's patient?
Yeah, our new one.
Okay.
What he said, the usual thing is, he says it's basically, that's what he felt. Is when he goes to the doctor, he felt like he was just cattle, just moving through. He called it the cattle something. Anyway, if you want to get rid of that, you want to experience something different where you actually can talk to the doctor for more than 5 minutes and figure out what the root cause is, back to root causes, then go to AskDrTommy.com and click on patients. Subscribe on YouTube or iTunes or both, and leave us a review. And if you leave us a good review, we'll mention it. If you leave us a bad review, we'll really mention it. Do it. I love it. And we enjoy talking to you. And until next time, bye-bye. Oh, and song of the week is Dire Straits frontman Mark Knopfler singing about Sonny Liston. And until next time, bye-bye.
Oh my gosh! That's so neat!
So many mouths to feed on the farm. Sonny was the second to the last one born. His mama ran away and his daddy beat him back. And he grew up wild, good love he never had. He had a left like Henry's hammer, a right like Betty Bamberlin. Rode with the muggers in the dark and dread, and all of them sluggers went down like lead. Well, he hung with the hoods, he wouldn't stroke the fans, but he had dynamite in both his hands. Boom, bam, like slamming door. The bell and the can and the bodies on the floor, beware. The bear's in town, somebody's money says the bear's going down. Yeah, the bear never smiles. Sonny's going down 4 miles and miles. Sonny's going down 4 miles and miles. Yeah. The writers didn't like him, fight game jokes. With his low life backers in his hands like rocks. He didn't want to have a bogeyman. They didn't like him and he didn't like them. Black Cadillac, alligator boots, money in the pockets of his sharkskin suits. Some say the bear took a flop. They couldn't believe it when they saw him drop. He had a left like Henry's hammer, a right like Betty Bamberlin. Rode with the muggers in the dark and dread, and all them sluggers went down like lead. Joe Louis was his hero, he tried to be the same. But a criminal child who wears a ball and chain. So civil rights people didn't want him on his throne. And the hacks and the cops wouldn't leave him alone. Everywhere the bear's in town, somebody's money says the bear's going down. Yeah, the bear never smiled. Sonny going down 4 miles and miles. Sonny's going down 4 miles and miles. Oh yeah. At the foot of his bed with his feet on the floor, there's dope in his veins and a pistol on the drawer. One no investigation says he hated needles, but he knew too much. Crisscrossed on his back, scars from his daddy like slavery tracks. The second last child was the second last king. Never again was it the same in the ring. He had a left like Henry's hammer, a right like Betty Bamberlin. Rode with the muggers in the dark and dread, and all them sluggers went down like lead. Never could be sure about the day he was born. A motherless child set to working on the phone. And they never could be sure about the day he died. The bear was the king they cast aside. Beware, the bear's in town, somebody's money says the bear's going down. Yeah, the bear never smiles. Sonny's going down 4 miles and miles. Sonny's going down 4 miles and miles.